episode 41 of Fist of the North Star 1 Point. The keyword for this episode is going to be antagonists. This episode is a recap episode, and so kinda as we did it in the previous recap episode, I believe, which was episode 17, and the keyword was evolution. What we talked about was Kenshiro's evolution in gaining faith, meaning, progressively in relation to the trials and tribulations, let's say that he goes through, and these new experiences that he goes through, so he gets meaning and he evolves. In this episode, what we see is essentially these different main dudes he fought against. And so that's why the keyword is antagonists, because I want to talk about, let's say, the evolution of the type of people that Kenshiro fought against. So in this recap episode, I like doing this kind of bigger picture kind of thing, as in what happened so far. So in this episode, what we get is first 𝙿𝚎, right, the dude in episode 1, then Shin, Rei, which is, let's say, kind of like, grey zone, like is he an antagonist or not? Then we see 𝚎𝚎, and finally 𝚎𝚎. And I like the fact that 𝚎𝚎 is skipped, because he gets to be quite like 𝚎𝚎. So I really see an evolution here, and let's talk about this. So first we get the, as I call them, the 𝚿𝚎𝚅 type of villain, right? Just the typical criminal bandit in this chaotic world who just gets whatever he wants with the power that he has, right? And Kenshiro essentially fights against that. But is everyone like that? Well, the main antagonist of part 1 is Shin. And so he's the king. He's order within chaos in a sense, right? So he fakes being order. We talked about these. And essentially all of these dudes are his men. But then Kenshiro fights against him, and we see that it's a bit complicated. Is he a simple 𝚿𝚎𝚅 type of villain? No. This is the first time we get this lone, sad warrior who wanted to get the heart of the same woman that Kenshiro loves, the protagonist, good, and he could never get it. And so it's a sad story. So we see that antagonists are not that simple in this anime, so that's pretty cool. Okay, we get a second type of antagonist, but is that it? So you get the simple criminal 𝚿𝚎𝚅 type of villain, then we get this one, and so they're evil, right? Nothing could have been done about it. No, you get Rei then. And so Rei is some sort of opposite kind of Shin, in my opinion. So after part 1, the cool thing with Rei is that he's the second Nanto dude, and so it's another Shin, let's say. So part 1 is over, and now you get Rei, and you go, oh, this is going to be another antagonist. And the thing with Rei is that the first time we see him, he wants to kill the man with the 7 scars, and then he becomes good. But Shin is an old friend of Kenshiro's, but then he turns evil. It was kind of like the opposite. And so Rei gets to be this kind of dude who was in hell, who was kind of evil, let's say, and then learns from his mistake and pays the price, let's say. And so we get more evolution. Okay, so I guess the main antagonists in this anime are, deep like this. So they may stay evil until the end, but you kind of have to understand them. Or they may understand their mistake and turn good. But then you get 𝚎𝚎. And so this is why 𝚎𝚎 is very important. He's a main antagonist. He was a candidate of the Fist of the North Star. Don't you think he was just some sort of 𝚿𝚎𝚅 type of criminal? But we'll develop this later. And he's pure evil. We should agree that 𝚎𝚎 is the embodiment of the devil in this anime. Right, like his appearance, his mask, and he whispers, right? And he tells Shin, get whatever you want in this world of chaos. Very interesting antagonist that will develop more later, but this is new stuff. And finally, the fifth one is 𝚎𝚎. And this is very precise because he's purely evil, but he's a more precisely ruler, dominating type of villain. And that's most of what we'll get in the rest of this anime. As we said in the previous video, that this episode is some sort of preparation to the rest. Legend. The legend of the evil king who enslaves against the legend of the savior. The rest essentially is going to be the main antagonists are going to be those evil, strongest conquerors against the protagonist, who's going to have the responsibility of the savior. So this is the evolution that I see in the antagonists that are portrayed in this recap episode so far.